Hey guys, this is Chad Joyce with Plum Real Estate and welcome to my North Dallas Living channel. Today is another edition of Foreclosure Friday and we are in Arlington, Texas. And we're going to be looking at a VA home and we'll explain what that is here in a little bit. But let me tell you a little bit, give you some details on this property. This is a 1707 Crimson Court in Arlington, Texas. This is a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath home. 1,600 and I think it was 92 square feet or 82, but the property was built in 1982 and it's listed for $249,000. Now, like I said, this is a VA home, which VA stands for Veterans Administration. So the property did have a VA loan on it. Doesn't necessarily mean that it was a veteran who was here, because those loans can be assumable by anybody. But it did have a VA loan, and the property was foreclosed on and taken back by the Veterans Administration, and they own it right now. So if you've ever dealt with HUD or anything like that, or VA, they all have their own unique little processes. So as an agent or as a buyer, you probably need to have an agent who is used to that and is able to handle that. And here we are, we're at the house. You can see it's right behind me. I'm gonna try to scoot it up a little bit. But you need to have an agent who's used to handling those. And that's something that I've done here over 22 years, sold several VA homes, been through the process. These are as-is sales. It is a buyer beware type of situation. You're allowed to do your inspections and get all the information that you've got, or can find on the house, but VA is not going to make any repairs. They're not going to do anything different on the, really do anything to the property. They may, there we go, trying to get a good view of it. They may give you a little bit of a price discount, but that's probably going to be about it if they do anything. So let's go on in, let's have a look at this one, and let's see what it's like. All right, here we are. Now we do have some utilities on in here, but not everything. And I immediately recognize this floor plan. When you've been selling for 22 years, you sell the same floor plans over and over. So when you walk on in, got a tiled entryway. It looks like this tile was updated at some point, but it probably needs to be replaced now. You can see, if you get down there and scrub, you may be able to clean that off, but it's probably in the grout and everything, and that's going to be difficult to handle. Do have an updated security system right here, and hopefully, I just bought myself a new flashlight because I saw in the other videos, my flashlight really wasn't doing the best. So now I've got a flashlight that's going to give a sunburn to these walls, so hopefully my camera here can handle that. But right to the right, walk on in, you got your formal living and dining combo. You can see like right up here, got a little bit of discoloration on the ceiling. You can see over here, there was something that was replaced at some point. You can see how that different coloration right in there. So something was done there. Carpet was I'm guessing this was carpet. You can see little tacks, where it was labeled or stapled into the ground there. So I'm guessing this was carpet. It's been removed. It still has quite an odor to it. Settlement crack here. Again, we're built in 82, so it's not too unheard of. But there is still an odor in the property. And believe it or not, there's going to be an odor in basically every house that's been sitting vacant without the AC going. It's just, those odors do linger in every home. Again, we got settlement cracks, got some diagonal ones here, so we do have some movement. You see right there's another one. You can also see right here, looks like they got the original windows. Always found these funny, like they barely can get those things locked in there. You would think those things would break off a lot easier. So there's dining area, come on in. Here's the kitchen area. That same tile that was in the foyer is in the kitchen. Again, you can try to get it clean, but then you got an issue like this where this one for some reason is all cracked up. I don't know if somebody did that on purpose or who knows. There is a refrigerator. I am not opening that. I know the power's on, but I'm still not opening that. And if you've never dealt with vacant, foreclosed type properties, people leave stuff in there and then food will go rotten. I don't know if that's the case here, but the smell can be pretty bad. Looks like you got the original countertops, black appliances. They did replace the sink. Not a bad little sink there. Got this wooden countertop thing. So we'll go back that way here in a second. That goes back to the front door. That's a closet. There's our garage. Here's the second living area. This is a laminate type, soft engineered wood. You can see it's already peeling up. It's not really fancy. It looks like they did, actually this is nice, they did replace these windows. So whoever was here was in the process of doing some updating on the property. We do have the 1980s crown molding, outside of green carpet and wooden paneling. There's not much that says 70s or 80s outside of that crown molding. Let's walk on here. We'll go to the garage. I do not have a light in here. We'll see if we've got a motion sensor light, but got the garage. Not going to go up there. There is a Christmas tree. Here's our electrical panel. Looks like that's actually not too bad. Missing some sheetrock in here. Who knows, someone may have had a bad day and just fallen through. These doors, you can tell by the coloration that these have been replaced at some point. The garage door openers themselves probably both need to be replaced. And then over here with this floor plan, the hot water heater is here. At least it's in the garage and not above your house, but this one needs to be replaced. This one should have gone off to college. This was built in 2005. So if you have a college age hot water heater, you probably need to find a new one. Those things aren't supposed to last that long. So let's go on back over here. Here's the half bathrooms down here right around the corner. It's really kind of weird. It's right off the kitchen. I mean, nothing too strange in here, except they have, that's tape, believe it or not. I don't know if anybody would want to touch it, but that's the downstairs. Let's go and walk on upstairs. This, this is not, part of the original floor plan. Somebody added this in. And this really only goes right above my knee. Like you can see, there's my knee. There's how high it is. So this is really low. Almost feel like I have to lean over to touch it. And you can see up here, you can see right there, obviously there's already a carpet stain. And if they left this carpet but took the carpet downstairs, you can only imagine how bad the carpet was, the shape it was in downstairs. Here's bathroom 2. 2. It had been retiled at some point, but, probably needs to go through all the updating as well again. Got a good sized bedroom over here. Your flooring's peeling back and damaged. You can tell that this is where a nightstand was. And the reason I say that, those are water, drink spills that go against the wall. So, for those of you who spill stuff and think that you never see it again, it does show up at some point. Usually speaking to kids there. Ceiling fan in here. Again, all this flooring needs to be replaced. Not really too bad a shape so far. Mainly cosmetic repairs. There is some settling. I am not sure what was going on there. That is some wiring back there. Maybe there was a security panel or something. I don't know. That's kind of odd. I usually like to say I've seen everything in 22 years, but, there's always something weird that happens or shows up like that. Ceiling fan in here, again, the same wood flooring. Got a little bit of a settlement issue up here. So I wouldn't be surprised if you had to put $5,000 to $10,000 into the foundation on this. Again, the flooring, it doesn't really look bad, but you know, it's not the best. You can see, you can try to keep this trim, but that's pretty gross. You know, and it would probably be easier just to replace it all. Basic closet. And see, you can see stuff like here. This is why, and we are on the second floor, but you can see there's a little gap here between the floor and the trim. That tells you that there has definitely been movement in this house. So we'll go over here to the primary, which I'm required by NAR to say that these are the primary bath or bedroom. And they changed that from master bedroom now. This room is pretty dirty. You can see the walls. We're not going to touch that. But like you can see there, you see that square there. There's probably a TV there or a picture or something. Same thing with right there. You know, there's probably a picture right there. So, and come back over here. You can see there's discoloration right there. So there's probably a little AC leak, but also you come down this way, and I'm glad we got the new flashlight. You see the discoloration right there. Probably means we have a roof leak or something over in this area. And actually, as I'm walking over here, and there's a settlement crack. It's actually getting higher as I come into this corner. So, you know, these are things that you can just notice and feel as you walk through it. Again, you know, people making a mess there. That can be painted over and cleaned pretty easily, but doesn't help with showing of the house. So, primary bathroom's over here. It looks like we just got a shower, no tub. It's very small. Vanity was updated at some point, but not sure if anyone would want to keep that. Let's see what we got in here. Yeah, just a normal shower. So let's walk on to the outside and see what the outside looks like. All right, here we are, back patio. This is an open patio. Looks like the neighbor's dog wants to say hi. We did have a lot of rain yesterday, and as you can see, there's puddles back here. So we're not gonna go, moseying around there too much. Let's see if we can see anything on the side here. There's our AC unit. See if we can kind of see when it was done. Looks like that 19, the serial number starts with 19 and 16, so it's either built in 2019 or built in 2016, and then the other number is probably the week of the year it was built. So not too old. You know, you're looking back over here, you can see the side paneling on the home is actually in really good shape. So, you know, we'll go back to the office. We'll check out the numbers. Again, this one's listed at $249, so not too many homes in Arlington are listed at this price. Let's go to the office and let's have a look at it. All right, guys, we're back in the office here, and we're going to take a look at 1707 Crimson Court in Arlington. Now, just as a reminder from our walkthrough, you know, that property is showing signs of settlement damage, and it needs a complete interior redo. We didn't get a walk around the backyard that much because of the weather, but, you know, that's probably can be thrown into that interior redo. So here we are pulling up the property on the MLS, and you can see we're listed at $249,900, 3-bed, 2.5 bath. That's what that means. You got a full bath here and a half bath there. 1,693 square feet. Now that slash appraiser, that means they had an appraiser come out and measure the house. So that's where they're getting the information from. Built in 1982. So, you know, the basic information that we saw on the property. So I did a little bit of preliminary work in on this, and you know, when I first did the neighborhood, there's only been one sale in that neighborhood in the last 6 months. Not great. We can't really base anything off of that. So I then did a half-mile radius search of all the homes built within plus or minus 5 years of that property, and saw, try to see what we could find there. Problem is, there's so much industrial warehousing around there that there's not many properties within 5 years and that have sold within half a mile in the last 6 months. So I made it a mile, and we need to be aware of that. That area it doesn't appear to have as much demand due to the proximity of those industrial warehouses and office space. So, and I'll pull it up on the map and we'll show it to you. So here we go. This is what we got. This is all the properties within a mile built within 5 years of the property. So if we go to our map, give it a second. See that red dot? That's where we are. All this over here, let me circle it, like all of this, that's all office space, industrial office space. All of that office space, industrial office space and commercial, it comes all the way down here. And this is an airport right over here, executive airport. So, and that's a school. So you can see that a lot of our space really is taken up. We don't have as much residential in this area. So we're not gonna have as many comps, which means when you don't have that, the variance in values is gonna be much higher. And you gotta be a little bit more careful whether you're gonna be an owner occupant or an investor, because your values aren't gonna be as good. So, again, let's remember this. We've got a 3-bed, 2.5 bath, 1,693 square feet. Scrolling down, we see, let me get my little highlighter back on, like that. Scrolling down, we see we got this one here, Wamsetta Drive, and it sold for $290. We have Rockdale Drive, it sold for $305. And they're backwards. The bigger one actually sold for less. So if I'm looking at these numbers, with these 5 sales right here, I would say we're probably going to be looking at, a $300,000 value on this house. And if you're curious on the property in the community that sold, it's this one right here, and it sold for $150. We can look at that. But I'm not sure what the issues were. That house sold way below everything else. Again, but it was also only a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. Sorry, that's a horrible circle. Let me clear that out. So, and then we have this one that's pending here. It's $335, a little bit smaller, but it's got a pool. So I think our $300,000 value is probably pretty accurate. So let's go look at our rental comps. Here's what we got. And looking at this really quickly, we can see this property right here is the one, 1,649 square feet. They mark it as 3-bed, 3-bath. That's going to be a 2.5 bath, just like the Crimson Court property. And it's a little bit smaller, leased for $2,125. So that's kind of $2,125, $2,150 is what you can probably expect for rental rates. So let's pull up get out of that. We'll pull up our calculator. And again, here we got all our information right here. I'm estimating the repairs at $35 square foot. Let me see, that's pulling up. There we go. And an $8,000 foundation repair. It gives you a total of $67,255. Our purchase price, I'm putting in there at the ask price. ARV's at $300,000. Okay. One day I'll go through this, but here's your taxes. It gets calculated for you. And I probably need to set this equal to that. There we go. So we go look at our spreadsheet on what our calculations are. Here's the flip here's the purchase. It'll cost us, once all is said and done, and assuming you're doing this with just cash. So if you're doing this with a loan, this number is actually going to be low. So keep that in mind. But your total cost, $249, plus your closing costs right in through here, and your remodel cost, title policy, gives you $319. So our flip is right here is the green box, and you can see down here this really doesn't make any sense to flip. This is not going to be a fix and flip property. And I already checked with the VA before we came back into the office here. They've already got multiple offers on it. So there's no way you're going to be able to get a low dollar amount, bring them down. They've got multiple offers on the house. Here's the rental rate. And this one will work, provided that you just leave it as cash. If you leave it as cash, you're getting a cap rate of about 5%. So, you can play around with these numbers in this calculator. I want to say if you get up to a 40%, there you go, it drops to 1.5, 50, we're about breaking, 60, you're basically breaking even at a 60% LTV. So, all that being said, there's a couple things to consider with that property is, the location of it, see if that's something you want to do. There is opportunity, definitely. If you're going to do this work yourself, you're not going to end up spending this dollar amount right here. You're not going to spend that if you do it yourself, or if you have local contractor contacts. It's going to be a little bit cheaper than that. I'm kind of going with, we use a website called Blue Hammer that gives us corporate pricing based across the country. So that's kind of what they're looking at there. So I think there's opportunities here for you if you're going to be moving into the house as an owner-occupant, and possibly if you want to rent the home. We can also take into consideration some of the things that we looked at last week with, Airbnb, pad split, and other short-term rental possibilities. I did not do this on this one because it's in Arlington. Arlington has very specific requirements on where their short-term rentals are, and this house doesn't follow into it, so I didn't do it on this one. When we look at future properties, we'll take that into consideration going forward. Hey guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the tour. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of our future tours. We do a Foreclosure Friday every Friday, every week. We go out and we check out another property and we analyze it to see if it's a good deal for a homeowner or an investor, and what kind of strategies that you can have in order to make it worthwhile. If you have any questions, again, my contact information is below. Please feel free to reach out to me. Love to hear from you guys. And until next week, I hope you guys have a good one, and we'll see you then.